Day 82, 1 Samuel 29 through 31. Saul takes his life. 29. Achish sends David back to Ziklag. 30. David destroys the Amalekite. 31. Saul takes his life. Chapter 29. God's providence orders wisely and graciously for his children, even when they have sadly erred. Even the ill favor of man may turn out to be for our good, that a door might be opened for deliverance out of strait our own folly have brought us into.
Chapter 29. Now the Philistines gathered together all their host to Aphek, and the Israelites encamped by the spring which is in Jezreel. The lords of the Philistines passed on by hundreds and by thousands, and David and his men passed on in the rear guard with Achish. Then the princes of the Philistines said, "Why are these Hebrews here?" Achish said to the princes of the Philistines, "Isn't this David, the servant of Saul, the king of Israel, who has been with me these days, or rather these years, and I have found no fault in him since he fell away to me to this day?" But the princes of the Philistines were angry with him, and the princes of the Philistines said to him, "Make the man return, that he may go back to his place where you have appointed him, and let him not go down with us to the battle, lest in the battle he become an adversary to us. For with what should this fellow reconcile himself to his Lord? Should it not be with the heads of these our men? Is not this David, of whom they sang one to another in dances, saying, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s? Then Achish called David to him and said to him, "As the Lord lives, you have been upright, and your going out and your coming in with me in the host is good in my sight. For I have not found evil in you since the day of your coming over to me, even to this very day. Nevertheless, the Lord's don't favor you. Therefore now return and go in peace, that you not displease the lords of the Philistines." David said to Achish, "But what have I done? And what have you found in your servant so long as I have been before you to this day, that I may not go and fight against the enemies of my lord the king?" Achish answered David, "I know that you are good in my sight, as an angel of God. Notwithstanding, the princes of the Philistines have said, He shall not go up with us to the battle. Therefore now rise up early in the morning with the servants of your lord who have come with you, and as soon as you are up early in the morning and have light, depart." So David rose up early, he and his men, to depart in the morning, to return to the land of the Philistines. The Philistines went up to Jezreel. Chapter 30. It happened, when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day, that the Amalekites had made a raid on the south and on Ziklag, and had struck Ziklag and burned it with fire, and had taken captive the women and all who were therein, both small and great. They didn't kill any, but carried them off and went their way. When David and his men came to the city, behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him lifted up their voice and wept, until they had no more power to weep. David's 2 wives were taken captive, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail the wife of Nabal the Carmelite. David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and for his daughters. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. David said to Abiathar the priest, the son of Ahimelech, "Please bring me here the ephod." Abiathar brought the ephod to David. David inquired of the Lord, saying, "If I pursue after this troop, shall I overtake them?" He answered him, "Pursue, for you shall surely overtake them, and shall without fail recover all." So David went, he and the 600 men who were with him, and came to the brook Besor, where those who were left behind stayed. But David pursued, he and 400 men, for 200 stayed behind, who were so faint that they couldn't go over the brook Besor. They found an Egyptian in the field and brought him to David, and gave him bread, and he ate, and they gave him water to drink. They gave him a piece of cake, of figs, and 2 clusters of raisins. And when he had eaten, his spirit came to him again, for he had eaten no bread, nor drunk any water 3 days and 3 nights. David said to him, "To whom do you belong, and from where do you come?" He said, "I am a young man of Egypt, servant to an Amalekite, and my master left me because 3 days ago I fell sick. We made a raid on the south of the Cherethites, and on that which belongs to Judah, and on the south of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag with fire." David said to him, "Will you bring me down to this troop?" He said, "Swear to me by God that you will neither kill me, nor deliver me up into the hands of my master, and I will bring you down to this troop." When he had brought him down, behold, they were spread abroad over all the ground, eating and drinking and dancing, because of all the great spoil that they had taken up out of the land of the Philistines, and out of the land of Judah. David struck them from the twilight even to the evening of the next day, and there was not a man of them that escaped, except 400 young men who rode on camels and fled. David recovered all that the Amalekites had taken, and David rescued his 2 wives. There was nothing lacking to them, neither small nor great, neither sons nor daughters, neither spoil, nor anything that they had taken to them. David brought back all. David took all the flocks and the herds which they drove before those other cattle, and said, "This is David's spoil." David came to the 200 men who were so faint they could not follow David, whom also they had made to stay by the brook Besor. And they went forth to meet David, and to meet the people who were with him. And when David came near to the people, he greeted them. Then answered all the wicked men and base fellows of those who went with David, and said, "Because they didn't go with us, we will not give them anything of the spoil that we have recovered, except to every man his wife and his children, that he may lead them away and depart." Then David said, "You shall not do so, my brothers, with that which the Lord has given to us, who has preserved us, and delivered the troop that came against us into our hand. Who will listen to you in this matter? For as his share is who goes down to the battle, so shall his share be who tarries by the baggage. They shall all share alike." It was so from that day forward that he made it a statute and an ordinance for Israel to this day. When David came to Ziklag, he sent of the spoil to the elders of Judah, even to his friends, saying, "Behold, a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of the Lord." To those who were in Bethel, and to those who were in Ramoth of the south, and to those who were in Jatir, and to those who were in Aroer, and to those who were in Siphmoth, and to those who were in Eshtemoa, and to those who were in Rachal, and to those who were in the cities of the Jerahmeelites, and to those who were in the cities of the Kenites, and to those who were in Hormah, and to those who were in Borashan, and to those who were in Athak, and to those who were in Hebron, and to all the places where David himself and his men used to stay. Chapter 31. Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from before the Philistines, and fell down slain on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines followed hard on Saul and on his sons, and the Philistines killed Jonathan, and Aminadab, and Malchishua, the sons of Saul. The battle went sore against Saul, and the archers overtook him, and he was greatly distressed by reason of the archers. Then Saul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and thrust me through, lest these uncircumcised ones come and thrust me through and abuse me." But his armor-bearer would not, for he was very afraid. Then Saul took his sword and fell on it. When his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he likewise fell on his sword and died with him. So Saul died, and his 3 sons, and his armor-bearer, and all his men that same day together. When the men of Israel who were on the other side of the valley, and those who were beyond the Jordan, saw that the men of Israel fled, and that Saul and his sons were dead, they forsook the cities and fled, and the Philistines came and lived in them. It happened on the next day, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, that they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. They cut off his head, and stripped off his armor, and sent into the land of the Philistines round about, to carry the news to the house of their idols and to the people. They put his armor in the house of the Ashtaroth, and they fastened his body to the wall of Bethshan. When the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead heard concerning him that which the Philistines had done to Saul, all the valiant men arose, and went all night, and took the body of Saul, and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Bethshan. And they came to Jabesh, and burnt them there. They took their bones and buried them under the tamarisk tree in Jabesh, and fasted 7 days.